Hello and welcome to the Doctor Who Show's Hot Take for Episode 6, the Interstellar Song Contest by Juno Dawson. I'm Dave.
And I'm Rob.
And let's dive into it. Rob, how are you?
I'm well, Dave. We're recording a little later after the show went out today, about half an hour later than last week, but still a very, very hot take we're about to unleash on listeners' ears.
Yeah, you're about 15 minutes ahead of me, so you've had a little bit longer to digest this one, but we're both coming in pretty hot.
And I was actually digesting my dinner more so than the episode, but anyway, let's not pull the curtain back too far.
No. Look, winter is here. It's a very cold, dark, wet night here in Melbourne, which probably isn't the vibe you're meant to watch this episode of. But that's okay, we'll talk about that. Rob, word of the week from you, please.
Dave, my word of the week is jet.
Jet? J-E-T?
Yes, J-E-T.
Okay. My word of the week is baseball.
Okay. Oh, all right.
I've no idea where you're going and not really sure where I'm going. Okay. The Interstellar Song Contest by Juno Dawson. Rob, I think there's probably three key things to talk about here. The song contest concept, the plot, and the arc. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, big picture, how are you feeling?
Big picture, I think it came out better than I thought it would, which is a win. But overall, was it a great episode? Not really.
Yeah, I agree. This is probably better than I was thinking it could have been, which is, of course, a good thing. But overall, I didn't think it was a particularly great episode. And the vibe I very much got is that final episode before the finale where the time and the money has run out a little bit. And everybody's sort of like, okay, we've got to get the finale, make that really, really good. Look, just get 6 out there, would you please? I think that there are a number of problems with this. But we'll talk about them. Let's start, though, with the song contest. What the hell was going on there, Rob?
Well, look, Dave, I think Doctor Who has always thrived when it balances eccentricity and storytelling and can appeal to a wide spectrum, but in episodes like today's, let's paint in broad brushstrokes. It was essentially Eurovision in space, even though they're not allowed to say Eurovision, nor would that make any sense, I guess, now that they're in space. That can be a blast for viewers who enjoy that kind of camp, queer-coded fun, if I can put it that way, but it's a narrower flavour, I think, that doesn't necessarily land with everyone. And when the show leans too heavily into this niche kind of appeal, I think it risks sidelining the broader audience. And I think that's what we've seen broadly with the RTD2 era, which is not to say there's not room for queerness and spectacle and all that sort of stuff, but ideally as part of a mix that keeps the door open to everyone. And I think Juno Dawson is aware of that, and I think this almost got there on some levels with this, as some sections of it are quite traditional, and I think this could have just as easily been Davo running around a space station solving a disaster that's happened. Forget the song contest, forget all that. A disaster's happened on a space station, Davo is saving the day. There is a Doctor Who story here, but when you add up a lot of the other little elements, I don't think it quite gets there. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
Yeah, I more or less agree with that. I think that as a framing device, it worked fine. There was a spectacle. Look, cards on the table. I don't think I've watched a minute of the Eurovision Song Contest. I have no interest in it. I'm sort of vaguely aware that ABBA won it in 1974. I'm vaguely aware that Ukraine won it because, we're all with Ukraine a couple of years ago. That's about where my knowledge ends. Where this was just serving as a backdrop for a much broader story, it was fine. It was, it was a colourful spectacle. And yes, I agree with you that it did try to be a lot more than just, hey, we're doing Eurovision in space, boys and girls, for 40 minutes. It clearly went beyond that, and I was very relieved that it did, because had it not, I would have got very bored very quickly.
Yeah.
That said, I think that this absolutely was one for people who are very aware of Eurovision. I think a lot of people will have enjoyed that. I think that if you're watching this on a summer's day in the UK an hour before the Eurovision final, which I believe is the case, this probably has a vibe that clicks a lot more than watching it in Australia on a dark winter's night with only a very basic understanding of Eurovision. Do I think that's a mistake? Yes, but as we both said, it didn't lean in nearly as hard as I think we were both worried it could.
Yeah, and this is what I'm getting at. I think Juno Dawson does get that you can't lean into it too much. I mean, for some, the setting alone is going to be a turn-off. I'm sure there are people who won't watch this at all because they're like, oh my God, they're doing Eurovision in space. What has Doctor Who become? Oh my God. And they just won't watch. And it was absolutely more than that. There was more to it. So I think Juno Dawson gets it. Interestingly, they were going to do a tie-in with the real Eurovision. Ncuti Gatwa was going to be representing the UK, not as a singer, but I don't know, coming on TV and giving out points or something. I don't know how it bloody works. But he pulled out of that in the past few days, and they've got, I think, Sophie Ellis-Bextor of Murder on the Dance Floor fame doing it. Why did Ncuti pull out of that? Is he still involved with Doctor Who? Was it not a contractual obligation? I don't want to speculate, but that was interesting. They were trying to go for a definite tie-in here with the concept.
Yeah, I have heard some speculation of the reason why Ncuti pulled out. I won't mention it here because it is very, very much speculation and slightly, if it's true, it would reflect very, very badly on him, and I think he would have completely missed the message of this episode if it was true, but I don't know, so let's just move on. Maybe we'll know more by the time we get to our monthly show, and if we do, maybe we can talk about it there some more. Anything more on the framing device, or should we get into the plot?
No, let's get to the plot. I think we've done the framing device well.
So, a couple of things I want to say about the plot. Did it work in terms of adding a bit more depth to this concept than I thought there was going to be? Yes, it did, absolutely, and I was very pleased about that. Were there some proper stakes? Yes, there were. However, I did think it was a very unpolished, very, very basic story with a huge amount of hand-waving, a huge amount of, oh, you do this, go fix that problem. Oh, you do this, go fix that problem. How do we fix this? Oh, the tech, it's done. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of, I think, contradiction within it, both plot-wise and message-wise and tone-wise. I thought it was a bit of a mess. Did it hold together as a basic plot? Sure. But, gee, a lot of things I want to punch in it.
I made a note, can a delta wave be transmitted? I mean, we had a delta wave, in Bad Wolf? The Doctor was building a delta wave. But can you take a delta wave and, if it's not physically destroying things around it, can you beam it out to trillions of people? I don't know how that's meant to work. So that was one of my little, how does that work? Moments in this.
There were a number of moments of, clearly a Doctor Who fan saying, let's throw in a Doctor Who reference. And in almost everyone I was going, but why? Like there was a reference to Tryon. And I'm like, okay, great. And then I didn't really get why there was a reference to Tryon. It was like, we're going to have a delta wave. I was like, oh, it's the thing from Barney of the Waves. Why? And is this the same thing? I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure whether one of the singers was meant to be a reference to Malfa from the Daleks Master Plan.
Yes. I was thinking the same, exactly.
So there were a number of those things that all sort of happened, but felt very gratuitous.
Oh, yeah, and even jump-starting the Doctor's heart with the adrenaline shot. I'm thinking, oh, are we in Pulp Fiction now? Are we riffing on Pulp Fiction? Then other weird moments, like when the Doctor uses the confetti gun to fly through space. Why does the airlock just open for him as he flies towards it?
Oh, no, the couple opened it.
They did open... Oh, well, I know they opened the door on the spaceship side, or the space station side, but did they open the airlock as well?
I guess so.
Okay, they must have. Because I was thinking, why would this just open?
But that's a very good example of this sort of contradiction that I was talking about in terms of tonality, because we did sort of have the whole, we're doing Eurovision and everybody's dancing and Malfa's singing and suddenly thousands of people are dead. Yeah. And, this has gone very nasty very quickly, and that's quite a bit of whiplash on that one. And then it's, hey, I'm flying through space with a confetti thing. And it's like, okay, now I've got whiplash back the other way. I just felt that it was lots of little pieces with very different tones that didn't always, if at all, fit together.
But Dave, he defrosted because, to shoehorn in more Doctor Who, Susan spoke to him in his head.
Yes, so let's leave Susan for the arc third.
Okay.
I'm starting to sound like I'm from Golga Frimchin now with my 3 arcs. I think that the sorts of fans that get very, very worked up about the messaging and the plot and the politics of Doctor Who are going to really struggle with this in the way they did with Kablam, because if I understand the plot correctly, the baddies were the people who are fighting the colonialist capitalists.
Yes.
That's not going to go down well with some people.
No, it's not. Let's throw in another one. The woman who gets to sing at the end, who is one of these people as well, has changed herself. She's removed parts of her body to become an inauthentic version of herself, rather than embracing what she was, even though she had a message earlier in the story. And I made a note here, here comes the message on the end of a sledgehammer about people treating other people for being different. Yet she changed herself to become inauthentic to fit in.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting way that you're looking at that. I saw that part, and because this is RTD Doctor Who, I was like, okay, what's the very obvious message that we're sort of pushing here? I did get vibes of people in the Jewish community in Melbourne and Sydney who, in the last 12 months, where there's been a 600% increase in anti-Semitic acts, and particularly on weekends when there have been certain protests, have not been able to wear Jewish cultural attire in the cities. They've said, they don't wear their kippas and they don't wear their Stars of David and stuff in the cities on certain days because they feel intimidated by some anti-Semitic activity that's going on. I sort of thought about that. I don't know if that's what they were intending or it was something more fundamental than that I've missed. I did understand the point they were trying to do where they had the black manager make the sort of racist, oppressive point, and that was obviously meant to be a contrast. Good idea, but Star Trek 6 got there with Brock Peters being the racist about 30 years ago. But that's okay. I sort of got what they were doing, but again, maybe I'm missing something, or maybe there just wasn't quite something there.
Yeah, well, this race of people seem to be hated. I mean, at the end, when she stops singing, no one claps. I thought they might have had a pocket or two of people here, like, maybe in the distance, like some people are supportive. Because in real life, that would be the case. Even people who aren't well-liked, there are still some supporters in a crowd of people. But there was nothing. They're painted. Even though their planet's been the one that's been pillaged for this flavouring for the honey, they're the hated ones. Oh, so strange. I made the note, the radicalised person is a bit McTie. Here it is. I found it in my notes.
I thought they may have gone and lead into... and maybe this was there that I missed it in between all the incoherent, unintelligible dialogue, that maybe, the company's propaganda was so effective that they turned the population against the Helvians in order to strip mine their world. But I don't think it really was quite going there. I don't think it was quite that sophisticated, in the same way that at the end of the day, what was the message? If your planet is invaded by a company... do a protest song, don't resort to terrorism, which, I mean, yes, I'm against terrorism, but I'm not sure that that's the message they were going for. And
I don't know.
Maybe there was coding here that you and I completely missed here, Rob, but...
Wouldn't be the first time, Dave.
It wouldn't be the first time. But I was sort of seeing those people who hated Kablam because of the confusion in the messaging. I think we'll have a real problem here because some people would say freedom fighters... I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I think that's a not straightforward thing to say. No. But whether you say these are terrorists or freedom fighters or somewhere in between, they are clearly the baddies that the Doctor is willing to torture.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that in a moment. Strip mining a planet is bad. Agree. Racial hatred is bad. Agree. Terrorism is bad. Agree. Protest songs are good, agree. I think all the beats are not wrong, but collectively I don't think they really had what I thought was a coherent story or message.
It's almost like the beats are as basic as the storyline itself.
Yeah, and maybe that is the case, because we have got a storyline where it's like, oh, you're a doctor, so go revive these people. Oh, you're an engineer, so go do a tractor beam. And, lots of, oh, we've got a hologram, so now hard light, because the Doctor can do... Like, there was just lots of very basic, we're going to do this now because we can do this. I didn't think it really earned any of the moments.
Oh, well, don't even get me started on that. In the 15 minutes I've had to play around with this, I've done the math, Dave. 100,000 people. How long do you think it takes to tractor beam, lock on, pull them in, revive them? Let's say it's 30 seconds. I bet it's more than that, but let's say it was 30 seconds. 30 seconds by 100,000 people is 3 million seconds. 3 million seconds divided by 60 gives us 50,000 minutes. 50,000 minutes divided by 60 is 833 hours, and 833 hours is 34.72 days. Do you think some of those people were standing around for 34 days before they got to the next act?
Yeah, and
it just made no sense.
They did do something there where they sort of said we're going to turn the VIP suites into capsules as well. So that would have taken some time off. But yeah, it does do that RTD thing of just making the numbers so big as to actually go beyond wow to just no. And turning it from 2,000 people were killed, or not killed as the case was, to 100,000, just sort of went from, wow, 2,000 people dead to, that's just ridiculous.
Who's manning all those pods? Because when they bring Rylan out, Belinda's like, okay, now I've got to see to you, like we've just done for Oji. There are still things to check. Who's doing all that checking at the maybe hundreds of other pods they've set up? It's just, Dave.
Yeah. No, it doesn't really work. And in the same way that once the number of people being threatened is 3 trillion, that again just becomes a meaningless figure.
Yeah.
Yes. But particularly when they're people we haven't met. The idea that stakes get bigger when you add an extra 0 or 4, I don't think quite works.
It takes us back to the well. What was I complaining about? How long was the period of time between midnight and the well? Was it 400,000 years or something stupid? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely what I had in my mind when I was writing that. So yeah, look, again, I don't think that all really quite landed for me. And tonally, to go from, wow, they've killed hundreds of thousands of people to, oh no, they haven't. I just think just didn't land for me. Rob, I mentioned it before, let's talk about it. The Doctor, I liked Ncuti's angry acting, but the Doctor torturing someone, I just thought, no, just a hard no.
It got very Palpatine and Luke Skywalker, didn't it? Where he's sort of zapping almost with electricity this dude on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, again, and again. It's very Return of the Jedi. I made a note that I like a vengeful Doctor, but I made that note when he blew up the robots, blew up their heads. Like, he just held up the Sonic and we were like, boom, I got no time for this. And the robots exploded because it wasn't killing a human being, it wasn't killing a sentient creature. It was a pretty badass sort of moment. I liked that.
Yeah, see, I didn't like that because it was like, oh, cool, we're going to get some plot stuff happening. The robots are going to come. The Doctor's going to have to do something clever. Oh, no, he pushed a button, they're dead. Okay. So, okay. Interesting, we took that one differently, Robert. So, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, but then when we did get to the scene where he zaps him again and again, and I thought, okay, he's going to snap out of it now, like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? But he doesn't. And he doesn't stop until Belinda shows up. And I can see how they're trying to make that pay off. Like, oh, she's finally safe. He can pull himself out of this now. But I think he should have snapped himself out of it after the first time he did it. Like in real life, if you were really angry with someone and you slugged them in the face, your reaction should be, oh my God, what have I done? Not to keep slugging them in the face.
Yeah, no, I just thought, like a couple of things we've highlighted across the course of this season, it felt very undoctorish, and I wasn't comfortable with it.
In a different way to some of those other ways, in a different way, but it's still undoctorish.
It's again a level of callousness that I think does bind them all together. Final thing I want to say for this segment about the plot is the audience sits there in stunned silence, and then just the slow clap taking off. I actually groaned. I just thought it's such a cliche. It's now mocked in stuff, and I just thought that was terrible.
Yeah, agreed on that.
So Rob, let's get into the final third of the stuff I think we need to talk about, which is all the arc-based stuff, the seasons shaping stuff. I've got a few notes here, but let's kick off with one of yours.
Okay, well, let's start with Susan. I mean, Susan was well done. I think given Carol Ann's age and the way she hasn't acted on screen, at least for what must be a long, long time, probably going back to the 70s, at least in terms of proper roles and not just little Doctor Who-related novelties.
Oh, she did Shakedown, thank you.
Again, Doctor Who-related novelties, Dave.
Okay.
And damn it, I know the vibe is meant to legitimise the new era in a largely unearned way. Like, here's Ncuti remembering Susan. Now there's a direct link between Bill Hartnell and Ncuti. But it worked for me, Dave. I'm not one of these, the show ended with Capaldi types. I buy into that this Doctor is remembering Susan and feeling that way. And in mentioning Capaldi, can it be said that he was the one who really started talking up Susan and having her back many years ago now? I don't know if he watches the current series, maybe not, but I wonder how he's feeling. Is it, that was my idea, that's what I wanted to happen in my era? Or is he going to be like, good on your show, you finally did it?
Look, I'm absolutely going to bump this up a score level because of Susan's appearance. It came out of nowhere, so it was a genuine surprise. Look, there have been rumours that Carol Ann Ford might be coming back since a year ago, but I think any of us who thought that might be true thought it would be a big finale thing, not a episode 6 thing. I assume this is setting her up for something in the finale. I would be surprised if this was all we're getting of Carol Ann Ford, because there was no explanation, particularly for new fans who be going, who is this old lady and why is she calling him grandfather?
I actually wouldn't. I think given that they can only probably use her in a limited way, like just saying a few lines to camera and just looking around, I think they might have used her up, honestly.
Okay. I thought that this was the dropping of something bigger, but maybe that is just the reference. Maybe that is all there is. That's interesting.
I'll sit on the other side of the fence on that one.
Yeah, and look, one of us will be right, one of us will be wrong. But in the meantime, if you, like me, are excited to see Carol Ann Ford, go along to the Sirens of Audio website if you're living in Australia, and remember to book for her visit out here later this year.
All right, enough plugging, Dave. These are a limited time slot we got here.
No, fair enough. One thing that I don't think is quite working in this season-long arc, Rob, is the way that Earth is being handled. I've been quite surprised, and another podcast that I listened to also brought this up last week, and they were right, that we went in the well to a point where nobody has ever heard of humans on Earth. And so we sort of now have this evidence that, Earth didn't make it past, the 24th of May 2025. And then we went into sort of a lighthearted episode of nobody really thinking about that. And even in this one, this sort of idea that they were surprised when the hologram said Earth doesn't exist anymore. And they were really, really cheating and having their cake and eating it with the whole, the Earth has completely vanished apart from this presenter who we found in the ashes or something. Like, I thought that's a bit of a cheat. And I think it did cheapen the season-long arc that the Earth has been destroyed and does not exist in the future, except where we need it to exist in the future. I think that's all a bit incoherent and a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I was, again, trying to rationalise this, because Ryland does make the comment when he starts to freeze in space in this episode, like, not again. So my supposition is that when the Earth is destroyed, and obviously we've seen things flying through space like the Eiffel Tower and taxi cabs and all of that, everyone just got blown up into space and froze. But good grief, you'd have to grab someone pretty darn quickly from the vacuum of space, because in this episode they weren't in the vacuum of space, they were in this other sort of area where they froze but didn't die. Whereas if you fly up into space, you will die within, 10, 20 seconds, your blood boils and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, the science was a little bit off on that. I took the not again to be a reference to him being frozen every year.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But is he meant to be from Earth?
Yes, he is a real-life presenter in the UK. This is one of these things that is meant to appeal to the UK audience. Even though Doctor Who's being made for a global audience now, they're still going very provincial and, stuff that appeals to the UK gets shoehorned in.
Okay, so I thought that maybe he was like a reference or a send-up of a presenter, but he actually was himself
real.
He's a real presenter. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, that dyed black beard, those horribly capped teeth, that's real, Dave.
Okay. Went completely over my head then. Any arc stuff that you would like to also mention, Rob?
Well, the Rani, Dave. You want to talk about the Rani now?
Yeah, we probably should.
I mean, every season since the show's returned, it's been, this person's going to be the Rani. No, this one's going to be the Rani. And my comments over the years have been, if they ever wanted a strong female enemy for the Doctor, the Rani's up there on the shelf. They didn't even need to do the whole Master and Missy thing. They could have just used the Rani all along. But now she's here. And, of course, it had to be a bi-generation, this apparently super-duper rare thing. And now we're off to the races with it again. Oh, well, and all I'll say, Dave, is it a bit on the nose that Rani is an Indian word for queen and Archie Punjabi is of Indian heritage? I'll just let that balloon just float off.
Yeah, no idea. That hadn't occurred to me. Okay, fair enough. I will say that I was quite surprised it was the Rani, because nothing that the Mrs. Flood character has done has remotely seemed Rani-ish to me. So it did come as a very big surprise. When she did reveal that she was a time lady, I did have a moment of, okay, is this a link to Susan? Is it a Susan regeneration? No, it could be Romana, or it could be the Rani. Or they wouldn't do the Rani. That would be real. Oh, no, okay, no, they are doing the Rani. So I was quite surprised.
I'm not sure I would have brought the Rani back in such a gimmicky way, but they've done it. The question for me is now, are they sticking to her being this amoral, I'm just doing science, I think people like the Master who want to take over the universe are a bit of a joke, or are we going to go down a different path? I guess we'll tease that out in the double episode ahead.
Yeah, I think her motivation seems to be very, revengey. But yeah, we'll see more of it. Are we going to delve into the where was she in the Time War? How did she escape the Time War or not? How does she link to this Pantheon thing that I believe is going to be a big deal at the end?
Yeah.
Is she collecting baddies like Conrad, like Kid from this one, to sort of do a bit of a evil version of the Halls of Justice or the Super Friends? Don't know. We'll find out next week, I guess.
Yep, that's fair.
But did you think it was the Rani, Rob? Had you any suspicions?
No. Look, I can say this now, actually. I had been talking to our listener on DMs. I mentioned this in a recent hot take, and saying I thought it was going to be Missy / the Master. So I thought there was a Time Lord thing going on, but no, I guessed Missy Master, not Rani.
Oh, fair enough. I wasn't guessing anything because I didn't care that much.
That's fair enough.
Not in the sense of I don't care, but just in the sense of, you know what, when they drop it, and I'm not going to stress about who it is until they want to tell me.
Yeah, fair.
I'm good for the sports desk, Rob. Are you good?
I'm very good, Dave.
Off to the sports desk.
Let's go.
Rob, listeners, everybody, welcome to the Sports Desk, where we are going to explain our word of the week, then talk about our play, foul, and player of the week. Rob, your word of the week was jet.
As in a jet airplane, and can they land this? Okay. And I think they got it on the ground, but possibly without its undercarriage. Because of some of the things I've already highlighted here, like how long it would have taken to defrost all those people, and just it didn't quite get there for me, Dave. So my thought was, this is big stakes. Can they land it? Yeah, sort of.
Fair enough. My word of the week was baseball, as in inside baseball, as in I got a really clear feeling watching a lot of this that there were a lot of moments and references and jokes that I just wasn't getting, because I'm not inside the tent on Eurovision, to the point that I didn't know that one of the presenters was a real presenter.
There you go.
I think I got one reference when the doctor said, I thought this was my Waterloo, but it was something else. Obviously, Waterloo was the song that ABBA sung in 1974, the same week that the Planet of the Spiders went out. And I assume that, he said it was my something else was another song that won. But again, I have no idea what that song was. So yeah, very inside baseball for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
Rob, would you like to tell us your play of the week?
Yeah, my play was blowing everyone up and having everyone float off in this very eerie way up into the sky. I know it's not the sky, but you know what I mean, the way they all just floated off. It was like almost the renewal in Logan's Run, where all those people just float off. I always found that scary as a kid, but this was on a grand scale, and it's like, have they killed all these people? Wow. And the flip side of this is the song contest suddenly did just become window dressing, because the actual big issue we were dealing with was, how do we save all these people? It wasn't, there's campy fun happening on stage, people are singing. It became bigger stakes, and that was really good, I thought.
Yeah, it was a good moment. I didn't pick it as my play because I think they did undo it with the whole, no, they're not dead, they're just etc., which I sort of thought was like, okay, well, whatever, I don't care then. My play of the week was the moment where the doctor shows Belinda the stars and says that's not the night, that's space. It's a really wonderful moment of adventure and wonder. I did get Restaurant at the Universe sort of vibes and was waiting for Max Quadrupleen to come up. But yeah, I just thought that was a really nice moment that made me go, I'm going to take this seriously.
And I think that highlights there are moments in this shooty era that, so many people put down and don't even give a chance. There are moments that are deeply Doctor Who. I think that's a deeply Doctor Who moment, Dave.
Yeah, no, I do as well, and that's absolutely why I wanted to highlight it. I'll keep going with my foul of the week. Many contenders. I thought there were many duff lines, many duff moments, many things that didn't hold together well. But as I said, the moment when I actually did just outwardly groan at my television was the slow clap start cliche where I've just gone, no, you can be better than that. That's actually quite embarrassing.
Yeah. My foul ties into my word of the week, and it's that they didn't quite stick the landing for me. It didn't quite come together. I know there is an ending, and I know it works on some levels, but they just didn't quite do it the way I would have liked to have seen it done. So that was my foul.
Fair enough, Rob. Keep us going with your player. Will we have a snap?
It was hard this week, Dave, in some ways, but I'm going to go with Shooty. And I'm going to go with Shooty because he did get to do that turn where he did act undoctorish. We've spoken about that. But there was just something in the performance there where I thought, okay, he's doing something different here. This is interesting. I'm enjoying watching this, even if I'm not enjoying what the character's doing. I can split those two things in my head. I won't go on. Shooty for me.
I understand exactly why you said that, Rob, but I didn't pick him, and I'm going to talk a lot more about why in our cold take in a few weeks' time, so I'll save my comments for that. Look, I just went with my heart on Player of the Week, and I went with Caroline Ford because she's awesome and she turned up, and I loved it, so whatever. It's my pick, and I'm picking her.
Brilliant. I love that.
Your score, Rob?
Yeah, again, it's a hard one. Not as hard as last week, but I'm going to give it the same score as last week. I'm going to throw a 7 out of 10 at this. I'm still a little undecided on that. It may change in the cold take, but for now, it's a 7. It's not like, oh, this was really great, amazing stuff. Nor was it the Robot Revolution, so, yeah, 7.
Yeah, I'm going to be harsher than you, Rob. I fundamentally don't think this one worked. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but you don't get points for that. I did think the plot was a mess. I thought there were lots of hand-wavy conveniences. I thought that the attempts at messaging, again, unless we've missed something, and if that's the case, we'll come back to another cold take and see what we did miss and reevaluate. That's the whole point of doing a cold take at the end of the season. But I thought the messaging, as I saw it, was completely messed up. I thought there was tonal whiplash all over the place. This did feel like the rushed, neglected script that everybody sort of ignored so they could go and hopefully make the finale really, really good. I originally gave it a D. Caroline Ford's appearance moves it up to a D+.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't, I'm not ranting and raving and saying this is the worst piece of Doctor Who ever and anything, but I just think it didn't work. As a piece of plot and narrative, I didn't think it worked. But let me say, there are a lot of people this will absolutely hit the mark for, and I'm very, very prepared for a lot of people to come out and say that was everything that fun camp Doctor Who can be and should be, and they got it and they loved it.
Oh, the gay couple are my two favourite new people in Doctor Who,
Yeah, and
there will be people saying that.
Yeah, the songs were fantastic. The guest presenters were fantastic. Graham Norton was. I can't stand Graham Norton, but I know a lot of people love him. He has a career, that's fine. I guess what I'm saying is, if you were inside the baseball on this one, it probably was a fantastic episode. Sitting outside of it didn't work for me at all, and that just left me watching a lot of plot holes and what I thought was poor writing.
Yeah, very fair, very fair.
Yeah, so just didn't not for me. Will probably be a lot of people. I could be in a very small minority on this one. It's always fascinating finding out. I look forward to checking out social media and listening to some other podcasts and hearing all about that. But we have a finale incoming, Rob.
We do. Big two-parter. And the second of those two parts is going to drop at a very weird time in Australia, so we'll have to coordinate very well on that one.
Yes, I'm not even sure what time that is, but we'll work something out.
4 a.m. for us, Dave.
Right, well, we're not recording at 4 a.m, I'll tell you that now.
We'd have to record at 4 a.m. We'd watch it first, then we'd record at 5 a.m.
Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday.
Okay, so Sunday.
We're not going to record at 5 a.m.
No. Okay, right. So, but there's a Sunday morning coming up. Okay, that's fine. We can do that.
Yeah.
We've rambled on enough, and let's end it there. I've been Dave.
I've been Rob.
We'll speak again next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.